Good day and welcome to the first tutorial on JavaScript. In this tutorial, you will learn what JavaScript can be used for. You will learn variables in JavaScript. You will learn comments in JavaScript, and you will also learn data types in JavaScript. And at the end of this JavaScript course, you are going to build a Google Chrome extension. Alright, so let's start our training. When we talk about JavaScript, JavaScript is primarily designed to operate or to work on the browser. And every browser, be it Chrome browser, be it Edge, be it Firefox, or whatever browser you can think of or that you are using, has what we call JavaScript engine. We are going to learn we are going to learn better about this as we continue in this video. Alright, so JavaScript could be used to update or change HTML and CSS code on the browser. It could also be used to calculate or manipulate or to validate data on the browser or on the web page. Okay, so let us see an example of how JavaScript could be used to change HTML or CSS code. As you can see, already we have an HTML code here. So we want to use JavaScript to change the state of this HTML code. So just see what the HTML code looks like on the browser. So let's go live. So this is what the HTML that we have. This is what it looks like on the browser. And so we want to use JavaScript. We want to see how JavaScript can change the states of this HTML code on the browser. But first, before you write your JavaScript, there are two ways you can include the JavaScript code in your HTML. The first way is by including it in your head tag, and the other way is by including it in your body tag below your body element. And it has to come below every content that you could include in your body element, as you could see me do it here. And so this is the best practice. However, it is better that you have a separate file for your JavaScript code, because just imagine you want to create a large web application where you are going to write a lot of JavaScript code. You're not going to put all your JavaScript code in that HTML file because it's going to make it messy or dirty or too untidy. Alright, so by creating a separate file for your JavaScript code, you are going to make work easier for yourself and make your code more readable. Alright. Having said that, let's see how we can use JavaScript to change the state of our HTML code. Okay, so the first thing you should see here is that we have an H2 element wherein we put a title, what can JavaScript do. Secondly, we have a paragraph element that tells us JavaScript can change HTML attribute values. So in another paragraph element we have, in this case, JavaScript changes the value of the source attribute of an image. So this is kind of explaining what this is saying. But that is not where we are going. Where we are actually going is, how can we use JavaScript code to change the state of the HTML that we have here? So we want to change the state of an image element. We have an image element here, and we have our two image files here. So we have used our image elements to include these images in our HTML code. Alright, so if you look at the browser, we have one of the images we have in our HTML file. But then we want to change this image to another image on the browser. Okay, so that is one of the things that JavaScript helps you to do. It helps you to interact with the web browser. Normally without JavaScript, this browser remains static and you can't change anything. You can only view, you can only see the design, you can only see the layout, but you can't actually change anything. Alright, I don't want to click the button now because the button are actually attached to JavaScript code, because if I change it now, you're not going to understand what I'm saying. But to better understand what I'm saying, let me explain what the code here means. Okay, so this is an image element wherein we have added our image file. So we have an image file here named pickboboff.png, and that is this image file here. Alright, so in order for you to add JavaScript code to your HTML, you need an ID. Remember when we were talking about CSS in our previous lessons, we said you can use ID and class selectors to select or to style HTML code in your CSS. The same thing applies to JavaScript. For you to grab any element in HTML and apply JavaScript to it, you need either an ID attribute or a class attribute. Alright, so we are using an ID here, and the name or value we give to our ID is my image. This way, we are going to be able to grab this image element and style it with JavaScript. Okay, so we have our ID, my image, and the source takes us to the part of the image, and now this is a style. So we use style to style the width or to adjust the width of our image with JavaScript. Remember that it is style elements you can use to adjust or to design or to change the look of an element or the look of an element with CSS. Okay, so remember, so we are using the same principle here. We are using style, and so we are setting our style to width property and value of 100 pixels. Okay, so now the next thing we could see here is button elements. All right, just as you can see it here. So this is a button and this is a button. Button will help us to use JavaScript to change the state of this image element on our browser. So let's go back to our editor, our code. Alright, so the first button we could see here, it says turn on the light. That means that when we click on this button, it will turn on the bulb. It will change the state of the bulb. That's what it means. Alright, so below it we have the image element itself, and below the image element we have another button. Okay, and the other button now is telling us to turn off the lights. That means when we click on this button, it should turn off the light, so it should change the state of our HTML code on the browser. More importantly, we can see something within the button element. This may look strange, alright? But let me just explain it briefly what it's doing. We are going to know better in the course of our JavaScript code. But let me just tell you what it's doing here. So this on-click button takes in an object of documents that takes in another property, gets element by ID. Alright, so this is one of the HTML method of using JavaScript to style our HTML code. Okay, just know that at this point, because we are going to learn more about it in our subsequent lessons. So this element now, this object now takes in the image ID. Alright, the ID we already gave our image here. ID is kind of an identity, so this image has an identity, and anytime we call this identity, it calls the image itself. So the image represents the identity, the ID represents the image. So for us to be able to style the image, we have to call this ID. So that is what we are calling here right now, my image, in order for us to be able to style it. Dot source, remember source, that helps us or that gives us the path to our image file in our HTML code. And the name of the source is pickbob.gf. So that is the simple JavaScript code we have in this HTML code. Alright, and this JavaScript code will turn on the light will change the state of the HTML code on the web page. Sorry. And then the next button, the same kind of code, but doing different thing, will change the HTML code on the web page. The trick here is that we're having two elements, we're having two images here. Okay, so one image we allow us to have a different state on the web page, and the other image will allow us to have another state on the web page. But we can switch between these two images using JavaScript. That is one of the things JavaScript can help you do. You can't use HTML or CSS to do this. You can only use JavaScript to interact on the web page or to interact with the web page. Okay. So that's the first thing I want to do. I want to show you. That's the first thing I want to show you. So let's just save this and see how it actually works on the web page. So we have the two buttons, turn on the light, the other turn off the light. Let's refresh this page and see what it looks like. Okay, so let's turn on the light now by clicking on this button. You see, it turns on the light. Let's turn off the light. Do you see? It turned off the light. Again, the trick here is that we are switching between two images, and that is what JavaScript can help us to do. Let's look at another instance of what we can use JavaScript to achieve. Okay, another instance is that we can use JavaScript to change an element style, to change the style of an element. Just like you can see here, inside our H2 element, what can JavaScript do? Alright, we have a paragraph element that says JavaScript can change the style of an element. Alright, when we are talking about the style, we might be referring to the font size, the width, like the style, anything you could think of as a style of an element. Okay, so for us to use JavaScript in this code, we need a button element, because a button element will allow us to embed JavaScript code in an HTML element. Okay, so JavaScript code, in this code we are going to, so below this paragraph element we have a button element again, and the button element take a type of button. Okay, again it takes an on-click event, which is equal to an object called document.getElements. So for us to also style this HTML element, we need an ID. This is the element we want to style. We want to change the state of this element. We want to change the font size of this element, probably from 16 pixels to 24 pixels or whatever, or to 35 pixels. So we want to change the font style of this paragraph element. For us to change it, we need to have an identity for it, so that we can use this identity in JavaScript to style the element. And that is why we have the ID. So the value of our ID is demo, and so we have grabbed the ID here, which is demo.style. Again, before you begin to style elements, HTML elements in JavaScript, you need to apply the style object. Okay, remember we use CSS or the style to style a HTML code, to style an HTML code. Okay, so .style.font size. So, and we set the font size to 35 pixels, and the description of the button is click me. So let's see how this works again on the browser. So if I click on this click me button, you're going to see, just notice what is going to happen. Notice. Did you see what happened? So we use JavaScript to change the font size of this paragraph content on the web page. Let me refresh again, and so that you can take a look at how the web page is. So you can see the element. We just have it as small as it is here, but when we click the button, it changes the font size of our paragraph element. So these are some of the things we can use JavaScript to do on the browser. Okay, we are still going to look at what we can use JavaScript to do, but first we are going to look at comments in JavaScript. We are going to look at variables in JavaScript. Before we begin to write JavaScript on a separate file or in a separate file, we are going to look at comments, we are going to look at variables, we are going to look at data types. Alright, in the next video, we are going to get into all of these details. Till then, stay fine and stay safe. Alright, bye. Alright, when we talk about comment in JavaScript, comment simply help us to describe what our code is doing. Should in case you want to collaborate with a fellow developer, you want to share your code with someone, it tells the person exactly what you're doing in the code. That's basically what comment means. And the way we write comment is by firstly typing /2/, alright, just as you see me type it here, /2/ followed by the description you want to give to your comment. Alright, let's say this is a comment, just like you have seen me write here, // followed by what you want to describe your comment with. Alright, so that is the way to write your comments, and you could see it's practically done here. Alright, this is my first script code, and this describes what I am doing here. So basically, comment allows you to describe what your code is doing, so that it makes the code readable, and if in case you share your code with a fellow developer or anyone, the person could know what you are trying to do in your code, and you write that in plain English. It is not a logical expression. You write it in plain English. Okay. Alright, having said that, let's move to the next, which is variables. So when we talk about variables in JavaScript, variables are kind of a container. Think of it as a container, just like in your house you have wardrobe, you have cupboard wherein you keep things, and it allows for reusability. So also in programming, variables allow you to save data, a piece of data that you would want to use anywhere else in your code. Okay, so let's see an example of that. Again, look at how comment is being used. Alright, so this is my first script code. This is describing what I'm doing. Okay, so there are basically two ways you can declare a variable. You could either declare a variable by using the keyword let or by using the keyword const, and you're going to see the difference between the two. Okay, so let's use the keyword let first. So we have let first name. Okay, so first name is supposed to be two separate words, but in JavaScript this will throw you an error. Okay, so in JavaScript the way to do it is when you are writing the second word rather. Okay, first is the first word, name is the second word. So when you are writing the second word, ensure you write the first letter of the second word should be capitalized. Alright, the first letter of the second word should be capitalized. Even if you want to write 20 words, okay, it's only the first letter of the first word that you write in small letters. Every other word, its first letter should begin in capital letter. That is how you resolve the issues with compound words in JavaScript. Okay, so we are using the keyword let. Let first name equals John. So when we get to learn data types, we are going to know what this actually means. But for now, we are learning variables. So we say variables are used to store pieces of data for reusability. That means that when you store it in a variable like this, we could use this value anywhere else in our code when we want to use it. So first name, let it be John. Last name, let it be Doe. Alright, and we are creating another variable to host these two variables, and so we say let full name equals first name plus this plus. So this expression is called concatenation. We use the plus sign to concatenate characters or variables in JavaScript. Okay, so because we want to join this first name and last name together, the way to join it is to use the plus sign. First name plus. Now, what these two quotation mark is doing here, open and close quotation mark is doing here is that, and you could see it is not just only quotation mark, there is a space between it. That will help us to have space between the first name and the second name. If we remove this quotation mark and the space, the two names are going to be joined together. That will not help us achieve our goal. Alright, so after declaring it, we now console log. We have actually learned the concept of console log in our first in this course. In this course, we have actually learned the concept of console log. Console is kind of a web tool that helps us to see what our code is doing behind the scene. Okay, and the log is kind of telling the console to put our content on the page. Okay, so now we are using comment to tell what this expression will do. See, this is practically what comment allows us to do. Okay, so when we will now save this and we check our browser, right click anywhere on your web page, go to inspect, click on inspect. It will open a window like this. Okay, so we have console, we have sources, we have network. These are actually developer tools that programmers or developers use. So you come to the console here, and you could see what we just put out or what we just output. Ignore every other thing that you are seeing, just focus on this one first. Okay, focus on this, John Doe, and that is the name that we wrote here. First name is John, Doe is last. So we put everything together, we concatenate everything together. So you could also see the space. You see the space here. Alright, so that is the output. So we console log the full name. Alright, so let's assume we want to use okay, now before we go to that, let's assume we want to change the value of this variable from John to another name, say Mary. So we want to change John to Mary, the first name from John to Mary. Okay, so we can only change the value of a variable that we declare using the let keyword. Okay, that is the difference between the let and the const. Const stands for constant. That means it cannot be changed. Alright, we can only change the value of a variable that we declare with let. So with this now, we are reassigning another value to this variable, which is first name. And again, we are declaring the first in the full name. And let us see what we are going to have. Let us see what we are going to have as our output. We are going to have Mary Doe as our output. Let's check that out. Did you see? We have Mary Doe as our output. So let's see something here. If we say we want to use let's just uncomment this. Let's uncomment this and see what this will do. Let's comment this out. Okay, so we are using const to declare a variable here. And so let's assume we want to reassign this first name and reassign Annabelle to the first name. You are going to see that we are going to get an error. Let's save it. We are going to get an error. Okay. Let me just comment all of this out so that we can clearly see what I'm trying to explain here. We should get an error. Okay, let's save this. Let's just save this. Let's refresh our browser. So we should get an error. Did you see? Concat type error. Assignment to constant variable. So it's telling us that assignment to constant variable is not possible in JavaScript. So we cannot reassign a variable that we declare with the constant keyword. That's what it means. So that's the clear difference between let keyword and const keyword. So you only use const keyword to declare a variable that you know is not going to change in the future anywhere in your code. Alright, so that being said, let's come back to our code and continue with the explanation. So we have actually explained what variable is. Variable is used to store pieces of data, for the purpose of reusability in your code so that you could use it anywhere else. So just look at what we are able to do here. So we declare a variable and we attach a value of dollar to this, another variable user income, and so we want to log out a statement using this variable. So we say console log currency, the first variable, plus user income, the second variable, plus, since we are writing a statement, there should be space, right? So we want to concatenate the characters that we have. So we are using this to create a space, plus the other statement is the average salary for developers in the US. So let's see what we have on the console. Let's refresh this page. No, something is wrong with this. Okay, we need to uncomment this. That's the issues. We need to comment this out so that we can have peace in our code. So let's run the code again. Let's run our browser again. So we just refresh it. So did you see what we have? $85,000 is the average salary for developers in the US. So what we're able to do is that we created variables for key values that we wanted to use in the statement so that we can use it, and we can actually use these variables anywhere else. As we continue in this tutorial, we're going to see how it's applicable, how we can reuse these variables anywhere else in our code. Alright, moving to data types. Moving on to data types. What are data types? This is actually telling us that in JavaScript we have different types of data. That in JavaScript we have different types of data. Okay, this is a type of data. This is a type of data. All of these are types of data. So the first type of data that we want to see or want to learn is what we call the string data type. String data type or string data type is actually any group of characters on your computer keyboard. Alright, we have different characters on the computer keyboard, and the combination of these characters is what we call string. This is a string, and we define a string using either single quotation or double quotation. Okay, for you to write a string in JavaScript, you must open either single quotation or double quotation. That way, JavaScript knows that you're writing a string or strings. Alright, string again is a group of characters and it's been defined by either single or double quotation. So let's see how we can use it in this example. So we are using the keyword const to declare a variable character, and character the value we want to put in this variable is this set of characters. Okay, we have D, we have number 3, we have underscore, we have plus, we have equals. So these are individual characters that make up a string in JavaScript. Another type of character we can see is hello world. Again, we define it by opening a single quotation and then we put in our character there. Another character we can see is this dollar, just like we used it here. And we are going to see how we can use this, and we use it again in our code. Alright, so to put it simply, we are saying that a string, okay, in JavaScript, a string is any group of characters on your keyboard. Moving to another type of character, another type of data type, we have number. Okay, number is just any kind of number. It could be decimal, it could be whole number, it could be an integer. Any kind of number is what is referred to as number data type in JavaScript. So see an example here. We have first number, a variable, and we put 300. Okay, so when you are actually defining a number in JavaScript, you don't need to put it in quotation, except you want to make it a string. Okay, if you want to make it if you make it a string, you can't perform addition on strings. When you perform addition, when you use the plus operator or the plus sign in JavaScript, it concatenates. Okay, so if it is number that you want to use, you don't put it in string, you just declare it like that. So const first number is 300, const second number equals 700. Console log first number plus second number. This is going to give us an addition of 300 and 700. Let's see the output on the console. So did you see it? We have the output here 1000. Okay, but let's say that we want to change this to a string. Let's say we want to change this to a string. Now, adding a string to a number will give us a string. When you add strings to number, it will give you string. Okay, it will give you the data type string. Let's see what is going to give us on the console. So did you see it? Instead of giving you 1000, it gives you 300 and 700. So literally JavaScript sees this as a string, and seeing it as a string, it considers these 300 as characters. And you know, characters, we say, a string is the grouping of characters. So it sees these 300 and 700 as characters, so it just put everything together. So if you want to perform operations on numbers, you don't need to put them in, you don't need to put the numbers in quotation mark. I hope that is gotten, that is clear. Another type of data type we have is the object data type. Object data type. Objects. Alright, so let's see what this is doing. Now, objects is used to group other type of data type in JavaScript. So let's say we want to define a person, the characters of a person, the personality of a person, and say we want to describe a person. So we are going to declare a variable for the person object, and we can do that by using const. Remember, const is a keyword for declaring a variable. Okay, so const is our keyword, and the object name is person. Okay, person equals to. So we define the object by declaring open and closing curly brackets. Okay, this is a curly bracket. So we put our object in the curly brackets. Now, the person object is going to take properties and value. So in the person object, maybe we want to have the first name of the person, first name, and we are assigning it to John. So remember, it's going to be in string John, because it's a string. It's going to be in a quotation mark because it's a string, and then you are going to terminate it by comma in order to add other properties and values to it. You're going to terminate the first line by comma, and then go to the next line. You say you want to have second name, or let's say last name rather, instead of second name, last name, and we are giving the value of Mary, or rather Doe. Okay, you can use any name actually. So we want to add other properties and values to it. So let's say we want to give it phone number, phone number. Okay, if it is phone number, it's still a string. Okay, phone number would be number type actually. So that would be, let's say, 0704567, any number that comes to your mind, please. So this will also be in quotation. So maybe we want to add age. we want to add age property, and then the value will be, let's say, 30 years, or let's say 27. All right. So we have created an object. This is how an object is created. So for us to have access to the values and properties in this object, we have to call the object the person object. Rather, we have to call the person object. So console log, we can do that by console logging it out. Console log person. We're going to see what we go over. Let's check out console. So did you see it? Sorry, come back to console. So this tells you that it's an object. Did you see it now? Age is 27, first name is this, okay, last name is this, phone number is this. First name John, last name John, phone number this, age 27. So you could see. So actually, object is the group of or grouping of any other data type. Object can also contains lists. Object can contains strings. Object can contains number. It is basically used to group objects together. Thank you. So in this video we have covered comments, we have covered variables, we have covered data types, and we have seen what JavaScript can do, how we can use JavaScript to change or manipulate HTML and CSS code on the web page. And there are lots of cool things we can do with JavaScript. But with this, we have come to the end of our first class or first lesson on JavaScript. Just ensure that you go through this lesson, and if you have any question or areas you do not understand, you can drop your question in the group. All right, see you in the next lesson.